Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Lead Square's virtual roundtable on real estate evolution in India, a glimpse into the future. We are thrilled to have you all with us today, no matter where you're joining from. I am Sneha Mahato from the marketing team at Lead Square, and I will be your host for today's session. Well, it's an exciting time for the real estate sector, and we have lots to discuss today. Today, we are imagining the future of real estate in India, 23 years from now. Picture our cities transformed, bustling with life, and unrecognizable. But it's not just about buildings, is it? It's about people too. We'll explore how understanding what people want can change the real estate game. By looking closely at what customers like, we'll see how we can make their experiences better and build stronger relationships. To make this session as engaging as possible, we encourage you to share your thoughts and questions in the chat box or the questions tab that you can see at the right hand side of your screen. We'll surely pick them up as and when the session progresses. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to meet our distinguished panel who will be guiding us through these fascinating topics that I just mentioned about. First up, we have Mr. Sridhar Narayan, the Group Director and CEO of Infrastructure at Hiranandani Group. He's a visionary leader with over 2 decades of experience in financial planning and risk management. Mr. Narayan has guided top companies like SBI, Bharat Heavy Electricals, Asian Paints, and multinational conglomerates like Unilever and Coca-Cola towards more customer-centric practices. He's passionate about nurturing the next generation of innovators and continues to build future-ready businesses. Sir, we are really lucky to have you with us here today.
Thank you.
Next, let's welcome Mr. Abhijit More, National Head of Channel Sales at Mahindra Lifespace Developers Limited. With over a decade of expertise in real estate sales and marketing, Mr. More has held pivotal roles at Mahindra Lifespace Developers, L&T Realty, Cushman and Wakefield, and HDFC Realty. He excels at building robust distribution networks and leading high-performance sales teams, consistently setting new industry benchmarks. Sir, welcome to the panel, and we are really lucky to have you here with us today.
Thank you, Sneha.
Joining our esteemed panel, we also have Mr. Srinath Chetty, the CEO and co-founder of Hosachi Guru. He's a true innovator in the real estate sector, leading an innovative agricultural asset management firm based in Bangalore. Mr. Shetty's forward-thinking approach integrates wellness-focused lifestyle with scientific farming techniques, fostering a sustainable future. Sir, thank you for joining, and we're really lucky to have you here with us today. Finally, the moderator for
Thank you.
today's session, we have Mr. Vineet Kumar Tiwari, AVP Sales at Lead Square. With over a decade of experience, Vineet sir has been empowering various enterprise partners with SaaS-based customer relationship management solutions, making him the perfect guide for today's discussion. Without further ado, let's jump right into the session. It's my pleasure to hand over to our moderator for today's session, Mr. Vineet Kumar Tiwari. Vineet, the floor is all yours. I'll take it.
Thanks a lot, Sneha. I welcome all the panelists here. It's an honor to share stage with you all, and I will start with a small snippet of a report about Indian real estate. So Indian real estate is a large growing market which is expected to reach US dollar 1 trillion by 2030, which also kind of it is envisaged that it is going to contribute like roughly 13% in the GDP. I mean, and to our surprise, after agriculture, like real estate is the second largest like employment generator industry, and with the government initiatives, etc., it is seeing that growth in last 5 years, which has never been seen in last 2 decades. So with this, I will start the like, discussion, and my first question would be to all the panelists, but I wanted to start with Mr. Sridhar. Sir, so seeing the current trend about the investment, etc. So like, what are the current trends in the global real estate investment, and how are the geopolitical factors impacting the real estate market in India? I would want to hear your thought, and then we will go to the other panelists.
Yeah. Thank you for having me on the panel, and greetings to my fellow panelists, esteemed fellow panelists, Abhijit and Srinath. See, currently, as I see, I mean, we have gone through a lot of things in the current scenario. The macroeconomic conditions have been very volatile in the region and in the world, more so in the past few years. And I could see geopolitical conflict. All of you are aware of the geopolitical conflict, high inflation, recessionary pressures, which is interest rates, and high interest rate regime across different economic regimes. I mean, for example, we look at Europe, liquidity is tight. So, given this has been the condition in terms of the geopolitical climate as I see today, and in that the real estate markets were the for the bursted, because if I can go asset class wise, but overall the real estate markets were hit because investment activity has been muted to some extent. Your commercial real estate saw a lot of vacancies. Post COVID, residential started picking up substantially, and today I think it's on fire in the Indian context at least. But if you look at the countries like China that were still affected and are recovering from this geopolitical crisis, I would think that people are all now on a recovery mode, given the past 2 years past COVID, and I think people are literally trying to make. I mean, at least from the Indian context, I can say that we are in a we are in a kind of a state where we need to look at different asset class from a different political as well as the economic development that's happening across our country, more so contributed by your AI digital revolution that's happening. So the world has seen a lot of this in the last 3 years. We have moved towards more digital transformation post COVID. And you can see with the increase in e-commerce activities, and that is leading to infrastructure like real estate in industrial logistics and warehousing. Then on the residential side, people wanted larger space. Density was an issue that's becoming a little better, but then geography still continues to be an issue for real estate as a marketplace. So people within countries and within states, geography continues to dominate as a very important factor for a real estate growth. So these are the macro points that I thought. Coming back to a little bit more micro across, as I said, because of the recessionary pressures and macro geopolitical factors, commodity inflation because of Ukraine war, I could see a lot of rise in cost in the construction industry, which has put a lot of pressure on the margins. So we are having a discussion against a backdrop of the last 2-3 years where we have witnessed all of this, which has happened. And now, as they say, as you have to keep chugging along and growing, right? So if there is death, then there is birth. So obviously, new generation, new developments, new aspirations, new projects. Similarly, new projects, new asset class, everything is coming up. So as I see the trend of this geopolitical uncertainty and the respective economic conditions of emerging economies taking a turn now, and I feel that real estate continues to be the biggest asset class contributing towards employment, towards GDP growth, and also towards ensuring that your infrastructure index is moving along. If just to give quote a number, I was just looking at some number in the report. I was just looking at the MSSI real estate index, which shows transaction involving income producing assets. When I say income producing, we're talking about REITs or commercial real estate properties that fell by 48% in 2023. So which is technically from 2021 numbers, it's a 17% fall, and which obviously gets explained by the vacancies that you see in commercial real estate, which means people are now working more from home, which means demand for commercial office space or corporates are backing off. Instead of 5 lakh square feet, they're taking 3 lakhs. Instead of 1 lakh, they're managing at 50,000. So I can see that trend getting in. Having said that, I also see a blip in the overall charts, because now I see that period of lull is over. People will now start typically in emerging economies to come back to office and commercial real estate growing. I mean, this is also indicative with the way the REITs are performing in the financial markets. You have the Brookfield REIT, you have the Industry REIT, commercial office REIT, then you have got the InvITs also performing. InvITs are doing well now given the infrastructure demand. But everything is a combination of respective countries' interest rate regime and also the current inflation and economic growth that really drives real estate markets. So that's where I'm saying that 2023 ended. In 2024, I think currently we are going through elections. Similarly, US is going through it. So we all expected some softening of interest rates, so which I don't see in 2024 as we chug along. And so India, USA, Brazil, etc. So this can affect investments as we talk, because I see a lot of large investing funds having a little bit conservative view right now when they take. Otherwise, they are all very ready. I was just attending a large meeting of the chairman of Blackstone was in India, and he was very bullish about certain sectors. Resi continues not to be their favorite, but they do invest in commercial real estate and infrastructure, industrial and logistics infrastructure in the country. And also, they recently did their retail REIT. So obviously, they are across all the spectrums. But I see till the US continues to act as a spoil sport, because for all these large investments made there, they still have to get out of that recessionary trend. And that dictates in terms of their investment philosophy across markets. But they all see India as a very still at a at a position where I think more funds will come in my mind, in the next few years. But it will be all more selective, asset class wise, geography wise, and will has to be income producing, and the yield has to be upwards of the inflation rate that and interest rate that we are talking about. At least in the readable assets, at least if we see some compression in yields, people will look at investing. And technically, cost of land, cost of construction, all are gone up. That's my personal view. Handling three asset classes and also aggregating land while I'm dealing with business. So I think the numbers. So obviously, I'll have to pass on certain cost escalations and increases to the customers. So that's going to also get readjusted or realigned in the next 2 years as we see the real estate growth. But to sum it up, apart from the global geopolitical conditions, I think India post these elections, still the next 10 years, I see a substantial growth in infrastructure development, leading to regional balancing of real estate markets and thereby growth in the Indian context. So that's my two bits on the overall scenario and more with reference to India.
Thanks a lot, sir, for this very insightful, like information and thought on this. I would request, like Mr. Srinath, to share his thoughts.
Yeah, like Sridhar sir said, right, there is a cyclical story here. Especially we saw post-COVID the residential market go drastically up, right, and then we saw the commercial start to pick up. Now what we are seeing is in the commercial space, the tourism real estate to pick up, because we are also dealing in various places in the tier 2, tier 3 cities, and any place which has a good view, which has abundant water source, we see a real uptick in the prices there as well, right? So there has been a kind of a cycle in the market, but from a global perspective, if you were to put it, we are still very small, right? I mean, just look at China. I think 30% or 25 to 30% of the GDP comes from real estate. For us, it is still less than 10%. And last year, I think we had a very good year, and I think in the top 10 cities or so, we sold about 3 lakh units, whereas in China, it is about 1 crore units. So there is a huge gap, which I think can be addressed over the period of time, and the potential is huge. But as such, right now, there seems to be a real uptick in the market as far as real estate goes in the urban towns, and so is the case in the tier 2, tier 3 towns, is what we are seeing.
Thanks a lot, Srinath. So Abhijit, if I can, like request for your thoughts as well.
Yeah, thanks, Vineet. And first of all, it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me here. So, on the resi front, what I feel residential front is that barring India, by and large, it has been some sort of a struggle across the globe. There were these geopolitical factors that were mentioned. But one of the things that's interesting is that this year 60 countries in the world are undergoing elections, India being one of them. So clearly it is a wait and watch. It seems to be a wait and watch mode across the globe. Coming to India, I think the residential sentiment has been fantastic. And I think COVID has got a lot to do with it. When people really realize that, they cannot really compromise in a small space when both the family members are working. So the investment in residential real estate has, I think, shifted from investment-driven philosophy to a consumption-driven mindset. And that's where you'll see in the past couple of years, luxury developments or spacious developments have really been absorbed very, very well. The GDP projections seem on track, and what we are increasingly seeing is that a lot of NRIs are showing interest in coming back and investing over here. And one of the factors could be that we anticipate a stable government in this election as well. So I think clients have become a lot more mindful on who they want to trust their money with, who are the reputed developers, what is the track record. Obviously, there is a lot of transparency which has come in with RERA and such other regulations. But yeah, I think largely over the past few years and in the forthcoming years, the real estate residential story seems to be really, really strong.
Thanks a lot, Abhijit. Since we got a lot of insights about what are the trends that are going to happen in terms of real estate investment in India, and how the political situations, etc. So my next question is to Sridhar sir again. Sir, you have would have seen real estate from few decades. So there has been lot of changes in the policies that the government has been implementing in real estate as a segment. So it's what is the positive influence of these policies into this segment? And also, if you could help us, all of us, if you could help all of us understand about the current challenges which this industry is kind of facing, it will be a great insight for all the audience and all of us.
Well, I think as few of my colleagues on the panel have mentioned, I think the government policy measures have been encouraging if you take a block of the last 5-6 years, the COVID was an aberration. COVID sort of affected the entire globe. But the government measures in the past few years have aided the growth of real estate business. And I think if you're talking about 5 trillion or 6, I think by 2026, currently we are a $3 trillion GDP. I think we are 5 trillion by another 2-3 years. And by 2030, we should at least be 7-8 trillion going by whatever growth you want to do, 8% or 7%, depending on what GDP growth we budget. But out of that, I think a 1 trillion market is what I expect by 2030 the real estate industry to be. So then even if you say we are at 6 trillion conservatively or 8 trillion aggressively in 2030, you are actually more than 15% of the GDP growth coming out of this sector. So that's if I put different numbers together and try to evaluate, the real estate sector is poised to grow to this number. Now, what are the different policies that have aided to this? Today, people are much more comfortable with, like Abhijit mentioned, brands, and Srinath mentioned, it's about acceptability of some consolidation will happen, but that consolidation is really good because people are much more comfortable. The regulations like RERA, then the GST consolidation in the real estate industry, they still have not sorted out the input credit issue on the leased properties or industrial logic because that adds to the cost. But otherwise, some residential and commercial, they have been able to sort of, at least on capital gain asset of real estate, they have put the GST input credit or reduce the GST number, which is on OC 5% and within that 12%, etc. So the rationalization of GST and all of those has sort of removed the cascading impact. That's one more policy measure apart from RERA. RERA has been very progressive law. At least it directly or indirectly gives a cushion to the home buyers. And now it is compulsory. So people are very conscious of putting their closing date. And that's helped really. Now let's come back to the financial markets in real estate. SEBI has issued REIT regulations. Luckily, I was also played a small part when I was part of the think tank or working with the SEBI executive director, Cyril Schroff, etc. When we wrote the regulations, and Embassy REIT was the first one that hit the market. Whereas I did a private REIT sale to Brookfield of my commercial property with $1 billion. But that time, Now we can confidently say that India is at least in the out of its nascent stages of the REIT market, because you've got three or four listed REITs, a couple of listed InvITs. So we are around 7-8 REIT products in the, which is a better than income, fixed income, and it is less than equity, but better than fixed income product. So the REIT regulations are also a great tool to increase liquidity in the marketplace. So that also I attribute to the policy measures of the government, and which has positively impacted the retail industry. Now, I mean, this is not taken off, but they have recently launched small and medium scale REITs also with asset size of about 50 crores. Now, what I see is there is a progressive mindset in developing these markets and being able to grow. So now people are talking about fractionalization of units. So somebody who wants to own a piece of X amount of square feet in a large commercial property, unless he's part of a large fund or he's an individual investor of a commercial building, he's not going to be able to do it. So now with these REIT structure and small and medium scale REITs and fractionalization, retail participation and liquidity has entered the marketplace. And that's a very good sign. It's a separate, it's about a timing issue that commercial REITs are taking a hit, commercial vacancies are going up. But that's got nothing to do with the positive policy measures that we have taken and making it much more accessible to retail. The overall most important thing, which I forgot to tell you, the national logistics policy. That's they're developing clusters at a lot of places, tier 1, tier 2, and across the country. Is also been has got a very good benchmark. You know what is the percentage cost of supply chain logistics in India is close to double digit, 13% of GDP. Whereas if you look at internationally, the number is close to 8%, like in the US. So we have got a benchmark to come to single digits. And the national logistics policy, which has been developed, is aiming to bring this down. So they are trying to do best-in-class technology, processes. They're building cost-effective, like they have launched cluster in between Mumbai and Pune, Delhi-Mumbai corridor, and they're saying single window clearance. So these are all divert industrial and logistic units towards that. They're giving integrated industrial area policy measures across different states. So I think the goal is to also be in the top 10 in terms of the logistics performing index. So that's also a large part of your real estate. And if you have all heard about the China plus one theory, a lot of global supply chain and manufacturing units are shifting to India, and that's going to give rise to a lot of which I'm seeing in my business ahead with, along with Blackstone, where I've invested in developing businesses, that it is really doing well. And that's going to have its cascading impact, because you cannot in isolation. We believe in building townships. So you actually build an industrial township, which means you build residential, you build hospitals, you build amenities, you build retail, you build schools. So the overall real estate and infrastructure quotient for that place goes up. So I think that's a good push on infrastructure by the government for increased infrastructure. India is building close to 35 kilometers of road per day, thanks to the Nitin Gadkari and the way it has been going on for the last. Now you can see in the market, NHA has launched its InvITs. There are 3 or 4 more new InvITs which have come in. So all this is very positive for the retail InvIT, which Blackstone launched Nexus REIT. That is doing well. I think that's close to, so I think 99 malls, 100 malls of India in the REIT. I was looking at the numbers. The footfalls and the growth rate post-COVID has gone up. So obviously they're all doing well unless the vacancies go up. While I said all of the good things to say that has happened for boosting the real estate environment across different asset class, land acquisition still continues to be a challenge. And we need to be cognizant of that. Who is the largest owner of land? The government. And then there are private lands. Then there are farmers' land who are not farming. Now you want to develop. Now you've got this net zero from a carbon footprint perspective. So everything is coming together. If you build, there is going to be an increased activity. If the increased activity will lead, so sustainability has become a big thing. So given all of this, it's only put pressure on cost. Things have become more expensive. And on top of it, if land acquisition is a challenge, it's going to hit your margins along with the cost escalations you are seeing. So unless if I see overall drop in interest rates and costs, or the ability to pass on, or the ability for people to pay more if they are renting a commercial premise, or if they're renting a warehouse, or if they're renting a apartment. The apartment deals have historically been low. Residential is a capital gain asset. So unless we bring about a change in, and I think the softening of interest rates will also help getting the mortgage rates down out in the country, which will be a big boost to the already fueled market of residential. I think these are one or two challenges that the government may want to deal with and maybe address in their budgets and new policies that may come. But overall, I think broadly, the FDA regulation in real estate, the GST, the national highway policy, the national logistics policy, the RERA, all of that has really acted as positive because real estate originally, if you see, was never institutionalized. Now, with these policy changes, we see a lot of global money, FDI money, domestic financial institutional money getting into this sector and more confidence getting built. So I think it's getting institutionalized, and thanks for all these policy measures as I enumerate. That would be my take on this.
Thanks a lot, sir. It was very insightful and informative. You throwed light onto all the aspects of the policy challenges, etc. So Sneha, if you want to run a poll, and if you want to talk to the audience about that poll, how to participate in that poll, you would be able to do that. And also, audience, if you're enjoying the discussion, please you can just set the emojis, which will be a symbol that yes, this discussion is going in the right direction. Okay, so my next question is to Mr. Srinath. Sir, you spoke about the customer experience, right? That it is now changing. Customer is also now kind of very well attached to branding, etc. He understands all that. So now in real estate as a segment, so there has been a shift from a product centric to a customer centric strategy and approach. So my question to you is, how has customer data analysis influenced the personalized real estate experience, and in the coming future, what trends do you foresee in terms of customer engagement and personalization?
Thanks, Vinit. So, I would like to put the question a little different rather than making it product centric to customer centric. For every customer, there's a different product, right? Earlier, people sold the story of the dream of real estate going up, right? And post-COVID, they started selling experiences, or the fact that one should experience the property and live, on the property, and that's what sold during that point of time, right? Mm-hmm. So, every developer has worn a different hat, and for every product, he has marketed differently. Today, if you go to the outskirts of any city, there are ghost layouts. People have bought in sites after sites, and they're just there like that because people have invested there for the sake of appreciation. But post-COVID, the entire thing's changed. People started to move in there to places which they felt kind of suits their dream or suits their philosophy of living, and that's what has been the shift. And for us at Hosochiguru, we've always looked at a product being for the end consumer use and not from an investment perspective per se, because we are into the space of farming or living a sustainable life or living a green green living. So from that perspective, we've kind of looked at a very different aspect offering of real estate, unlike the typical real estate. And what we believed is to deliver the entire experience through an omni-channel rather than trying to look at them, understand this new product in different ways. So we adopted technology. There was a product called Talking Lands, luckily, that was there in the market. We used their services to showcase 3D views of the project, just to help customers understand how this entire layout is going to evolve over a period of say 3, 4, 5 years. Right? Those are some of the aspects that we used, and we have really seen an uptake in terms of customers wanting to live on the land rather than just buy it for investment. So our product has been the same for the last 10 years, but what happened pre-COVID and what happened post-COVID was very different for us, right? And a lot of young millennials, because for instance, today, even if you have to buy a 30 lakhs or a 40 lakhs worth property, you literally have to go to the outskirts of any town, right? And you're already living in the city, which, your parent have bought you a good house or an apartment. And for you to envisage yourself to go live, in the outskirts in a 30, 40 lakh property is highly impractical, right? The people who bought it earlier were for the sake of investment. But today, when we sell the same property, but with a different aspect altogether, which is about experiencing, about growing a food forest, or about living a life off the grid, right? That's what we are kind of selling today. So from that perspective, we've seen a huge shift in the way consumers are looking at real estate. A lot of people who never owned real estate are coming to buy real estate with us. They realize the importance of that aspect. And every plot or every project is different from each other in terms of the vision that we have for the project, and we kind of match it to the vision that each individual has it, right? I mean, a person may want to have a kind of a food forest, another person may want to kind of look at a herb garden or a herb space, right? Or a person may want to kind of have a larger open area for him to practice maybe hydroponics or aquaponics, depending upon the choices that he has. So we have kind of personalized it for their individual needs, right? While keeping some constraints of the overall layout intact. So for us, in terms of delivering this customized experiences is what we've been able to achieve, and we've been seeing a great response in that aspect.
Thanks a lot, Mr. Srinath, for sharing this. It was very informative, and we all learn good things about customer experience, about also how customer is now like their behavior, etc. So, Mr. Abhijit, so like recently I watched one of the marketing content for Mahindra Life Spaces, and that's also talks a lot about experience, customer experience. So I mean, I would love to hear from you your thoughts on how this approach is changing, and the focus is now on the customer experience.
So Vinit, before I come to where we are today, maybe you would like to think what happened 15 years back. Real estate was literally sold out of a pota cabin at the developer side, and you were actually lucky if somebody even offered you tea or coffee. And cut to today, I think we've shifted. Actually, we start selling real estate with a lot of hospitality element in it nowadays. And I think the word is actually hyper customization. Back then you had one standard product pitch, one size fits all, no matter who's coming. So it was essentially a very seller's market. Now, if you see on the sales front itself, there are 3 or 4 different product pitches which are ready by developers to cater to an end user differently, to cater to an investor differently, to cater to an NRI differently, so on and so forth. So clearly, we are adding a certain amount of science to the way we are approaching the customer experience bit of it. Earlier what used to happen, in fact, as early as pre-COVID, what was happening is that you had a micro market, what is the acceptable budget in this particular micro market, and then you fit a product all around the budget. I'll give you an example. In western suburbs of Mumbai, we had 2 BHKs, which were designed around a 500 square feet livable space. Now, practically, once the whole family shifts in a 500 square foot, it becomes extremely challenging for everybody to adopt. So clearly, the budget was the first thing, and the product was a byproduct of the budget. What happened of late is that developers are really asking that can the entire family stay in this house in a very comfortable manner? What will be the ventilation like? How will the airflow be? How will the physical movement inside the house be? In fact, what we are seeing of late is that there is a lot of awareness around sustainability. We have launched 2 net zero projects in Bangalore and Mumbai. We have launched one project which revolves around biophilia in Pune. They have been excellently, accepted by the customers. As I was discussing with you, Vinit, offline, I was surprised that when we launched the first net zero project in Bangalore, a lot of our customers ended up with so many questions around net zero and the overall calculations. So it's not just a marketing gimmick or a marketing title. Now, today, if I am committing something, I need to really back it up with a lot of data. I think in terms of the customer experience overall, we moved from just a paper presentation to AR, VR. In fact, we are the pioneers in using metaverse in one of our in one of our projects in Pune. So a customer can actually walk into the site with his family. He can take the entire metaverse experience. He can go up and down in the whole project. He can walk around the house. He can see the view from every single direction. He can walk to the amenities and then take an informed decision as to which view or which which typology works best for his requirement. So clearly, the overall experience bit is really emerging in a very interesting manner going forward. It'll be very interesting to see how the trends trends evolve in the future as well.
Great, great. Thanks a lot, Abhijit. Since we discussed about the growth in the urban, say it's like urban India, we talk about the growth of real estate in Delhi, Mumbai, etc. How the trends are emerging. The customer experience is also changing. The customers are now more informed, aware about what they want today. But we would want, and it is for also for the benefit of the audience, that we would want to understand. So Mr. Sridhar, sir, if you could help us understand and enlighten us on the growth of real estate in tier 2 and tier 3 cities. So what are the drivers, if it is happening at what pace, and like what are the key drivers driving these changes?
Well, while the economic activity and economic pace of the Indian economy is up as compared to the global standards, and real estate is also in the forefront driving growth. I think its contribution, I can say, is the tier 2, tier 3 cities are also growing, essentially because of two reasons. Post COVID, a lot of migration happened both to all these tier 2, tier 3 cities. And as I could see, because I was employing labor force from different places, I created labor camps for people in my Chennai township, then for in my warehousing outlets in Pune, Nasik, etc. But I could see that there are a lot of labor which went back. And similarly for mid-tier IT staff in my commercial real estate business. So I have physically witnessed that the digital transformation that happened from 2020 and now, a lot of your tier 2, 3 cities have grown in terms of both consumption and people going back. So I can see growth happening out there in these places. Warehouses, which was not even thought of in 2019, Amazon will put a 2 lakh square feet or a Flipkart will put, because he has to make deliveries there also. Buy and click culture came into place. So buy and click culture, COVID, digital transformation, people moving back to, when you come back to city to find a job and you get a mid-tier manager's job in IT services company, you have to go and take a house on rent, you pay high cost. Now, if you can work out of home in Nasik or in Belgaum or in somewhere, you're fine. So those cities and towns are seeing development, because then when you go back, you have a need for a good real estate, good living. So consumption and growth in infrastructure is driving this growth in the tier 2, tier 3 cities, as I see, because it's drawn people back. That's one. The regional imbalances are being corrected because there has been a lot of infrastructure being developed, which is essentially roads and connectivity. Now, this has contributed excellently for these tier 2, tier 3 cities to grow. Otherwise, your Bombays, Delhis, and Chennai will become totally overcrowded, right? In Bangalore. I feel till the last 5-7 years back, I used to call Bangalore as a overgrown village, because you never planned for it. Now people are planning for it. You are from the airport towards Hyderabad, you are developing. So you have found ways to expand the perimeter of the city, perimeter of the town. So what will happen is tier 2, 3 cities are growing. I think they will constitute 30 to 40% of your population, working population, and their needs and their consumption will drive growth in tier 2, tier 3 cities. And that's a good sign, because you have to balance the economy. And for example, now I see proposals coming out of Bihar and UP, and put up warehouses in Lucknow, Kanpur, Varanasi. Now, I mean, that is where I mean that India is on the cusp of, we needed a lot of infrastructure, but I think we are going and approaching it city by city, state by state, and then it's happening. I think that is the key goal. Once you have this entire round robin of infrastructure and connectivity built in, and on top of it, you put the digital transformation and cap onto it, then you can work from anywhere and with great facilities. And then you don't have to make a dash from Ghaziabad to Bombay to find work, or need to be in a capital, commercial capital of the country to make it big in the world. That's one. And plus, your 25 to 28 years age population will be close to 60% in the next 5 years. So 60% of your country's population average age will be 25, 26, the most productive time. And this aspiration or this aspiring population, as I see, I also have the fortune or lucky to be interacting with a lot of startup founders and everybody else apart from my real estate. I mean, it's like wildfire. People now choices are that I pass out of IIT, I pass out of MBA school, or I pass out of a graduation school. I need to go for what? No, you may even become an entrepreneur. Choosing entrepreneurship as a career has become a very vital. A lot of state governments have invited me to start up their acceleration and incubation hub, which means what? In Kerala, in Bihar right now, Sidbi called me saying that can you help us with this ecosystem out here? So a lot of this is fantastic. I mean, we are seeing a cultural shift. People wanting to stay back and develop themselves and their work area and grow from where they belong to. So, which means more rebalancing, regional balancing of development, which means tier 2, tier 3 cities are growing on the back of digital transformation, infrastructure, consumption story.
Thanks a lot, sir, for sharing these insights. I would want to hear, so Mr. Srinath, if you could share your thoughts on this, will enlighten us.
See, we primarily operate in the tier 2, tier 3 cities. Most of the farmlands that we buy are those areas, and it's a very micro market driven. In fact, we were buying a particular farmland, right? And just a kilometer away, there was another property available, and the price is almost double. The only difference is that Amazon does not deliver here and Amazon delivers there, right? So it's a very micro market difference. So at times, we'll have to really go into the areas and understand how these markets work. And there is a lot of scope because you see layouts after layouts even happening there. And typically, the people there in the local villages tend to buy the plots. And it is not just about urbanization to the city, right? Because if you look at any taluka, there are about 30-40 villages which are surrounding that taluka, right? The gram panchayats and all of those. And they've also start moving to the taluka levels because of the infrastructure, because of being able to order online, because of education. So there is also kind of an influx into population in the tier 2, tier 3 cities. But the interesting aspect is there's a lot of juice left. Like for instance, I recently bought a property in Raichur district, right, which is a place called Manvi, a taluka which has about 1 lakh population. There you're able to get land at about 2,000 rupees a square feet, at a commercial land, and you're able to construct something at 2,000 rupees and rent it out at 30 rupees. So you typically still get a yield of 9-10% or 8 to 9%, which is not seen in the urban spaces. So there are bits and parcels where you can really have juice, and even from a development perspective, even the layout developers that I see there also make fairly good amount of money compared to the urban developers because there is hardly any competition. There's only that much of market available, and they do it at their own pace. Of course, they're not funded like the urban developers, but there is a lot of potential in the tier 2, tier 3 cities. Just that it cannot be an organized market there because people would want to trust the local players rather than trusting a player who's a national player or a player who's in the city. So from that perspective, the markets are very interesting there, and we have seen an uptick in the prices. Like the same land, say we bought in the year 2018 at 15 lakhs, right, in terms of the agriculture land. Today, the farmer is quoting about 45 lakhs to 50 lakhs today, right, in the neighborhood. So there has been a huge uptick in the price as well when it comes to the farmlands. And but potential is there because given the kind of micro markets, given the kind of inflow into the cities, we feel still there is a lot of potential for real estate in those markets as well.
Thanks a lot.
Srinath, I just want to have these farmlands are bought for the end use being what? Agriculture or buying? Or
so what we do, sir, we essentially do two models. One is we sell the farm plots. So it's a gated community of farm plots where we buy in 100 acre and one acre is sold to individuals, and each acre is designed for their individual needs in terms of farming. The other one is we convert that land into a residential layout, but sell large format residential layouts, 10,000 square feet, because we want every plot to have a garden and a farm, but it have the DTCP approval. So there are essentially two models that we do, but in the outskirts of a city, which is typically an hour's drive.
That's interesting. No, that these kind of plots will now find. So that's right. So this is what I mean. You can bracket it in pure farm plots or something. But what is driving people also is with people with surplus and disposable income are moving towards these kind of need for living. Like for example, from Bombay, People are saying, I don't mind driving 2.5 hours, but I want a farm plot. So, or similarly from Pune, from 2.5 hours away from Pune, because it has to be affordable. Plus, you have to grow something while you do agriculture. You also want to live there and manage. So, these kind of things are happening. So, that's also contributing towards the growth of this tier 2, tier 3 development market. So, that's an interesting one. We are also experimenting something like, but we are trying not to do farming, but we'll at least do half-acre plots with some luxury living villas in Alibag and stuff like that. But that's and so, but yeah, it's philosophy is the same. People want little bit of greens around them, little bit of garden and farms, and that really should help.
Absolutely,
Thank you.
absolutely. Yep. Thanks a lot, sir. So, Mr. Abhijit, you mentioned the use of technology in terms of how the sales in real estate is happening, how we are able to deliver kind of a great experience to the customer using technology. So my next question to you would be, so how has the technology kind of like helped in enhancing accountability, transparency, and trust in the real estate segment, especially in terms of like transactions. And second, also like what potential do like innovations like 3D printing, facility management software, they kind of they bring in the practices that we form in construction. And we all, in fact, the audience who are there, like most of the audience are from the real estate kind of fraternity, so they would want to learn about the technology and the advancement that we're seeing in real estate today.
So, on the technology front, I think a lot has happened. A lot more is yet to happen. Uh, we are seeing a lot of initiatives from the government, whether it is digitization of land records, something like RERA. Like, just imagine the situation before RERA, where you had absolutely zero idea on who you're buying with. You had to go by trust. Today, you just log into the website, and if you know where to look, you can literally get every single detail of the project that you intend to purchase, with right from litigations, track records. It's all up there in the public domain. Uh, the Maharera, which has been in the forefront of taking initiatives, will soon start gradation of projects. What that means is it makes life that much more easier for the end user, that he just does not have to take the advertisements on face value. Uh, Having said that, there is still a lot more that can be done on this front. I was just reading there is the blockchain technology, which can bring in a lot of transparency when it comes to historical ownership of properties. Uh, there is IoT, which is particularly used in smart cities, so which can integrate the whole smart city through a common technology. In between, there is home automation. So there's a lot more on technology in real estate, which is yet to come. In 3D printing is still very new in India. In fact, the very city that you come from, Bangalore, I think they constructed a post office with the help of IITs in a mere 43 days. Now, imagine such a 3D printing technology coming into India. When you really crunch down the construction timeline, it effectively negates the cost that arises due to the delay in approvals. So 3D technology in itself holds a lot of promise. It's a very environmental friendly way of construction. Uh, Considering its technology, you can actually design a lot of complex structures using 3D technology. But I think it's still a very new technology, because the kind of materials that can use in 3D technology are very limited. You cannot go very tall in skyscrapers. Uh, Also, the initial setup cost is very high. So while you mentioned 3D technology, I would say it's still a very interesting technology that needs to come to India, but needs to take into account all the other factors that I mentioned around it. Uh, Also, one more innovation that we are seeing in real estate and technology is especially the proptechs. Now, these proptech companies are not just helping the customers, but they are also helping us as developers. and it starts right from the time we identify a particular land. uh, it's much easier to get insight on what is the velocity in and around the area where we intend to construct a project. What is the typology which is moving very fast? What are the sizes I should make? For an end user, he can actually, there are certain websites that will provide even an apartment level data of transaction which has happened in that particular vicinity. When a particular transaction has happened, at what price. So tomorrow, if you're sitting across the table, the end user can be much more informed when he's getting into a negotiation. Then there are these facility management softwares. You have No Broker, Home Adda, MyGate, etc., etc. They have begun to show significant amount of promise. So right from managing large complex societies, you have visitor management, you have payments that can be managed, society notices. So I think these PropTech companies are really shaping up very, very well. What I'm additionally seeing in these PropTech companies is a lot of backward and forward integration. So it's not just a solution, you just don't log into the app, but through the app, you can find mates, you can get packers and movers, you can get interior decorators, and there are n number of services. So I think technology, real estate, and PropTech together seem to be shaping up very, very well in the future.
Thanks a lot, Mr. Abhijit. So Sneha, we have a time check as well, but I had one last question, and we can take it, kind of like very quickly. So to all of you, we can start with Mr. Sridhar again. And sir, please pardon me if this question is little, I want to say, take you back 10 years ago or 15 years ago in your career. So my question is very simple: that what was the most successful marketing campaign for new residential like development that you would have ever seen in your kind of career of, say, 20, 25, 30 years, like down like it
So
may be
the question
in
is
your early
about
days as well, and also second
part
part
of
to it
camp.
is,
Sorry, yeah, continue.
yeah,
Finish your question.
second part to it is, so what were the key factors for its success?
So I wouldn't see. I'm doing real estate for the last now 8-10 years. Before that, I was doing FMCG. I was doing financial services. I was doing infrastructure financing. Maybe now I'm developing and building. But I think the most successful marketing campaign I would think is, there are two ways. One is if I'm in a B2B market like the industrial warehousing and logistics business, or I'm in a B2C market like the residential or the commercial also is again B2B because commercial real estate goes. So fundamentally, it always the marketing campaign is built on the brand that you have built over years. What we successfully implemented was all about delivery quality. For example, the successful thing was we rented out to TCS, the topmost company, 2 million square feet, but we built it was a built to suit order. There are 42 or 43 developers in the fray. It was a bid, and it was for 2 million square feet. All the big names were involved, and we were also there. And we got it, and we built it in 18 months of time at Thane, Hiranandani Estate. So that's one of the. So I wouldn't call it as a marketing campaign, but I would say that it speaks volumes about what you deliver. Campaigns are now everyone has got digital technology anywhere. Everyone does great AVs, great slides. Then you have got Salesforce on the ground, and then you build, and you have got even specialized agencies that you appoint. So I'm saying that whether it is any other large group, they are equal in terms of the marketing campaigns. But it all comes about more effectively delivering on efficiency and effectively, and then being able to highlight in a subtle manner to your client. And then obviously cost efficiency, cost effectiveness, delivery on timelines, these things make a much larger impact than the marketing campaign. You have to do marketing campaign. For example, we sold this year, last year in Panvel, we sold about 800 crores. We sold about 2,200 crores in Powai. So my residential sales are up to 3,250 crores, including Chennai. So that was a great year. But then that was with we have virtual sales or show flag, physical show flag, brochures, digital content, digital marketing. So I think all of this worked out together. I think it's a very evolved market. People are also very sensitive and very clear about what they want and why they want. and it's also very geographic within the country, geographic specific. South of India is very functional in its mindset. So any marketing campaigns or ads that you do, you have to address the sensibilities in terms of functionality, which includes price, cost efficiency, nearness to temple, nearness to blah blah blah. In Bombay, it's about how much you travel. In Bangalore, again, it's about nearness to place of work, nearness to a shopping mall, or nearness to a social environment. So I think, and plus, more importantly, everyone now has a budget. So if your marketing campaign is addressed towards that, these kind of needs, and is able to draw, then you have X amount of leads. Then the typical conversion rates apply. 100 leads are generated. If you have a 10% conversion, that's damn good. 10 to 15%. On digital media, 15-20%, then great, because site visits happen. But still, real estate is a look and feel asset. So people do, uh, in spite of everything, want to come see. But one important change has happened. A lot of people now buy, including NRI clients, without seeing, and they complete the transaction digitally. So that means you show the actual flat to them digitally, the construction status and progress digitally. So I think that, and as Abhijit was saying, maybe going forward we will have blockchain also, if we can integrate the past where we didn't have contract nodes. But if people can move towards that, a lot of things. For example, we constructed our data center in Noida during COVID without really moving much, but obviously hiring contractors, monitoring progress, and stuff like that. So is it possible? Yes. And are we driving towards it? The answer is yes. The virtual VR, augmented reality, AI, AR is all helping us to put all these things together. So that's my 2 bits on my successful campaign and the technology that we use for campaigns today, and the critical success factors that is required to make your campaign get converted to sales.
Thanks a lot, sir. Okay, so Mr. Srinath, we want to hear from you as well.
We need two aspects. One is, I just like to touch upon the technology, the previous question, right? Today, what we are more and more seeing is that consumers don't like to be sold to, right? They consume a lot of information online. So our endeavor is to kind of give as much as information online as possible in terms of, the moment they see the land, what is the size of the land, what is the price of the land, which survey number it falls under, what are the points of interest, to virtual tours, to AR tours. All of those things become very critical. We have taken it a step further, right? We now enable our customers to book online, complete the entire transaction online, right? So this is something that I think is going to evolve, because when we're buying even a small share in the share market, right, we get so much of information about it. But when it comes to a land, we go and discover it from the builder, right? And that becomes a little bit of a challenge, because builder is a party whom the buyer wants to question. So if a good PropTech platform, which is a third-party platform, can deliver this information in such a way that it builds trust for the buyer with the developer, I think that will make it a lot more meaningful sense. And that is what today we have adopted to. I'm sure a lot more PropTechs are in pipeline to look at such solutions. So that is one aspect, I think, which is going to change the real estate industry. A lot of people are going to buy online. If a person sitting in the US wants to buy a property today, if you can do everything online, discover a property, do an online chat with an AI, get through the documentation. The moment he books the property, the legal documents are available with him. All of that information, if you make it seamless, I think that is the best thing to happen in the real estate market, right? And to a large extent, we've been able to adopt that using one of the tools. But I see a lot more platforms coming, helping us take this further, right? So that is my bit on the technology aspect. Coming to the campaign aspect, I think there are three things that I would like to look at, right? One is, the consumer wants to know why you're doing what you're doing as a developer, right? Second is, how do we do this? The third is, the means of campaign. So the first and second pretty much have been common across all campaigns for us. But what really worked for us over the last 2-3 years is when we've used influencers. In one of the campaigns, we used Ayo Shraddha, right? And suddenly the entire market opened up for us, because when she put our video on her feed, it really changed the entire game for us. Similarly, we used recently Rocky and Mayur, Highway on the Plate. That was another series where Rocky goes to various places, tries food, tries hospitality, and we were featured in that, right? And suddenly people started to look up on that aspect as well. So influencer marketing is something that is really worked for us over the last 3-4 years, because being a small brand, we really can't spend too much on mass media. So from that perspective, I think for brands like us, influencer marketing is really kind of given us that ROI is what I would like to state.
Great, thanks, Mr. Srinath. And your, the campaign on air, I have heard it while driving to office at Hosachi Guru, it's like managed farmlands, and it is fantastic.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I want to hear, like from Mr. Abhijit as well, his thoughts on or about his, like campaign which has been super successful.
So I think we need, when we are discussing the future, there was a small experiment we did to really test the future during COVID times, and Sridhar happened to mention some bit of it. So, because it was COVID, it's not that we cannot launch any project. So we thought, okay, why not try an affordable housing project in the outskirts of Mumbai? There's a location called Palghar where we have affordable housing projects, typically between 15 to 25 lakhs range. So, we wanted to test the traditional stereotype that real estate can only be sold through a sample flat. It's a touch and feel product. So we invested heavily into a technology through which a customer could purchase a property sitting at home. So you give him the end-to-end experience. You register the customer online. You book his slot for the whole family. You take him through the presentation. You also take the money. The entire transaction along with the KYC happens through the app, right from blocking the inventory to everything. And we were addressing a TG which was essentially the first-time home buyer, right? The 15 to 25 lakh. So not necessarily the tech-savvy TG. To our surprise, we ended up selling more than 300 homes during that particular phase in COVID. Honestly, we were, as a sales team, we were a little skeptical when we entered into this experiment, but we were very, very pleasantly surprised to see that the response was overwhelming. Like I said, I think over 700 to 800 customers ended up attending the presentations overall, which resulted in over 300 bookings. Now, so what that means is that the proof is there. People are ready for it. It's just for us to go ahead and experiment and be creative about how can you go about it and leverage on technology more and more. So yeah, the Palghar one launch remains one of my most fondest memories.
Thanks a lot, Mr. Abhijit, for sharing this. So Sneha, I think we are kind of like so there is a time crunch, and like there are some questions I could see.
Yes.
So if you permit, we can take either one or two questions from the audience.
Sridhar sir has already replied to the questions, but Abhijit sir and Srinath sir, if you do have time and if time permits, then you can also take them up. Like we'd be happy to take them up during the session.
So we can take like one question, and so Mr. Srinath can kind of answer that question because it is more of related to his expertise and his thing. And Mr. Sridhar has already like replied for this.
Yeah.
Your thoughts on this?
Question, sir.
Okay. Sneha, if you could just repeat that question. No, so it is more on ability.
Can I take your leave, guys? I need to get into a meeting.
Sure, sir. I mean,
Sure,
thanks
sir.
a lot. It was like wonderful having you here.
Thank you.
On this discussion.
Thank you, Abhijit. Thank you, Srinath, and thank you.
Thank you, sir.
audience.
Thanks, Sridhar.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, sir.
Thank you. All the best. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Sneha, what is the question, Sneha?
Yes. So the question states, it's by Abhijit. I have recently seen that more and more millennials are getting into sustainability, be it homes or alternate investments. Why do you think this is the case?
No, I mean, there is an awareness, right? And like I said, I kind of mentioned to you, like, typically when a millennial gets into the real estate investment, he's looking at a ticket size of 30 to 40 lakhs. And for 30 to 40 lakhs, you really can't get something that suits his lifestyle. You would have to go in for something that he can adopt to. And that's where he starts to look at, what is that product that he can kind of sync up with, right? And of course, one is farmland, second is alternate investments, which could be, fractional investments, which could be, those are things that he can perhaps relate to, right? The moment he starts to think of the typical real estate, for 30 to 40 lakhs, he has to really travel far, right? And it may not really suit his needs. So I believe there is a huge gap there, and there's an opportunity as well. And things like fractional investment, things like farmlands, or plotted developments that can have a certain different uh, experience, a different certain experience which will suit them, is what he would really be looking at as a millennial, right? Unless you're right out of IIT and you're getting a 2-3 crores kind of a package, and then you're okay to cough up about 2-3 crores. It's very different. But I've also seen this, right? A lot of people, even though they have money, they don't want to kind of be tied up for the next 10-20 years when it's an alternate investment. They would prefer something that they can just quickly get off. And so what we have done is, as a company, we've offered EMIs to customers, because we don't want them to. This is a second investment, right? It's not the primary investment. So we allow them to make a payment over a period of 24 months, and that is something that is very well accepted, in terms of the consumer. So what we believe is that the millennials are typically in those brackets who would like to put a little bit of money, and at the same time make sure that it is something that they can relate to.
Right, right. Thank you so much, sir. Abhijit, sir, would you also like to share your thoughts on this question?
Yeah, I'd just like to elaborate on what Srinath said, and we've recently been launching net zero homes, sustainable homes, biophilic homes. What we realized is that I think the most amount of carbon emission that you do at a personal level, individual level, is not through your vehicle, but it's through your home, and that is through the use of electronics at home, the air conditioner, the paint that is used on your building. So the home that you live in is probably the most carbon emitting thing that you have around you. So that's where I think the millennials are quite educated, and they want to do their bit for the environment, because obviously there's only so much you can do in an individual capacity. Having said that, along with the awareness, I think the number of options which are coming towards sustainable homes have also increased. So there is a lot of certification which is in and around. There is net zero, there are carbon calculators. There is so much data and information available to you. And if you have a choice to choose in favor of a sustainable home, then why not? So I think one is the awareness, and second is the availability of options that are out there, which is causing a rise in millennials choosing sustainable homes.
Right.
Thanks a lot, Mr. Abhijit and Mr. Srinath. I think, Sneha, we are running short of time. So
Yes.
Yeah.
Whoever has basically asked any question, we'll be sure to get back to you with our expert insights in a few days. So thank you so much, Vineet, for moderating this insightful session, and a heartfelt thanks to our speakers, Mr. Sridhar Narayan, Mr. Abhijit More, and Mr. Srinath Shetty, for sharing your invaluable insights. We've explored the future of real estate in India today, and we've focused on long-term forecasts, the shift towards customer-centric practices, and the role of technology in transforming the industry. And I'm sure that everyone has taken away some really valuable insights with them today. So thanks again for agreeing to be a part of the panel. Before we include, I'd like to encourage everyone to continue the conversations and connect with each other on LinkedIn, follow our speakers, and stay engaged with the latest trends and innovations in the real estate sector. Thank you so much to everyone for joining us today. Have a wonderful evening ahead.
Thanks.
Thank you,
Thanks a
sir.
lot, everyone.
Thank
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Sneha.
Thank you
Thanks.
so much. Thanks.